Welcome to the Real Estate at Work virtual meetup. I'm your host, Lekha Devta. We host this meetup once a month and we try to bring you some really killer speakers and cover a myriad of topics, all related to real estate investing. So please do join our meetup page for upcoming events and also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see some of our past presentations. Nee, can you go ahead and put the link in the chat box? All right. So today's meetup is dedicated to the fix and flip strategy. It's one that's super close to my heart because that's how I started investing in real estate and continue to do flips today, just because I enjoy them. I'm excited for everyone to even meet our speaker. She is amazing. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about fix and flip for the first 30 to 45 minutes. We'll cover a lot of ground and then we'll take question and answers from the audience. So feel free to put your questions in the chat box. Then at the end of that session, we're going to break into breakout rooms and actually network with the people here in small group settings. I was going through everybody's registrations and it looks like there's a really good mix, like a 50-50 mix of new versus seasoned investors. So like seasoned investors, if you're looking for private lenders, JV partnerships, wholesalers, you have them all in your audience. And for new investors, if you're looking for mentors, someone to do a deal with, someone to vet your deal, again, our audience is very good mix of both sets. And if you want us to get a hold of you, do drop your link or, a way to get a hold of you in the chat box and tell us what you're looking for. And that way we know who you are and why we need to connect with you. Okay, so a lot of people here. We had over 200 people registered, which means typically 100 people show up. So it's a good crowd. Let's get started. I'd like to bring your attention to Kara Beckman, my partner in crime today and my co-speaker. When I first met Kara, I was shocked to see that we shared so many similarities. The biggest one being our approach to problems and problem solving, which is a good skill to have when you're in the real estate industry investing actively in deals. We've also both had pretty similar careers in real estate. We've both been on the Bigger Pockets podcast. We've each completed over 50 remodels. So we do understand this strategy and can give you some good pointers. Kara, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hi, Lekha. Thank you so much for having me. And I love how similar our stories are because when I first met you, Lekha, for everyone who doesn't know, Lekha was in Arizona and one of our Bigger Pockets friends actually introduced the two of us. So it was kind of a friendship blind date. And we went to brunch and we're sharing our stories and it was so similar how we just really dove in and figured it out as we went. And that's very much how I started, and different personalities can handle different things, but we're so similar in that sense.
That's right. And then for those of you that don't know, Kara is a little Instagram, absolute superstar. She has, over 70,000 followers and has actually created a pretty awesome deal flow pipeline and clients from her social media. So we're going to dive into that. I can't wait for her to talk to us about how she did that and how that has absolutely propelled her business. So just to get started, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you what the life cycle of a flip is. And then we'll go into all the different aspects of it. All right, so if you can see me, or if you can see my screen, super simple, simply put, you first create your buying criteria. All right, so you're gonna say, okay, this is how much, these are the funds that I have, and based on the funds that I have, or based on the expertise, knowledge that I bring to the table, this is my buying criteria. Then you go into finding the deals that match your criteria. Then you're going into financing these deals. Then there's the rehab process itself. Then there's, once you finish the flip, there's marketing the flip and closing on the deal. So from start to finish, it's all of these items combined that make a successful flip. So I'm going to go back to Kara. Kara, a lot of people start out investing in real estate, and when they first start out, they don't have a lot of money. How did you find and fund your first deal? Can you talk us through what that first deal looked like?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot of different ways to get started. I have always been raised in kind of to have that frugal mentality. So I've always been a really big saver, and that came in very handy when I wanted to start investing in real estate, because I basically had a really good chunk of money saved up, and that's what I was able to use as my down payment. And since I started investing in real estate while I was working a full-time job, which I do think was very beneficial, I could use my W-2 income for my job to help me qualify for a mortgage. So rather than my first property having to be an all cash deal or having to do a partnership, I basically leveraged my full-time job to get me started in the real estate investing industry. So I like to say, use your day job to fund your side hustle until your side hustle can become your full-time job. And that's exactly the route that I took.
I love that. So how long did it take from having that day job to then not having your day job and diving into this full time?
Yeah, so my first purchase was in 2016. I did one flip that year. It was towards the end of the year. And then 2017, I thought I did another flip. I purchased a rental property because before I quit my full-time job, I've had a full-time job since I was 15 years old. And a lot of times I was working 2 to 3 jobs. So that steady paycheck was very scary for me to quit fully. So I had to make sure that I knew that this was something I even liked. I mean, flipping houses really is a full-time job. It's a lot of work that you might not necessarily see when you're looking on Instagram or even design shows. There's a lot of work that goes behind it. So I wanted to make sure I liked it before I quit my job. I wanted to make sure I had a rental property under my belt, so I had a little bit of cash flow coming in. And so 2017 was kind of just building up that structure, getting more flips under my belt, getting a rental property. And then I officially quit my day job in 2018 and started Beckman House full time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's definitely it's a learning lesson. I mean, I've learned from the ground up, and sometimes when you dive in, you just have to figure it out as you go. And I think you had a pretty similar start, right, Leica?
Yes. So I started flipping homes back in 2014. And I was, the other funny thing is Kara and I both were in fashion merchandising, and we both switched to real estate investing, which is so funny. But I was at Nordstrom Corporate for a good 8 years, and I wanted to just quit my W-2 and do something entrepreneurial. But like Kara said, it was scary to do that unless I knew that I'd like my side hustle. So I started my company while I was still in my corporate job. And I started looking for deals, started to find contractors, and soon realized that, for me, that was not going to work, because I wanted to do this full time and to be able to go find a killer deal and then actually do the full gut reno on that deal. I would have to quit my day job to dive into it and do this full time. So that's what I did. I quit my job. Within 3 months of quitting my job, I had my first deal under contract, interviewed 15 different contractors because none of the 14 worked out. And I started flipping homes back in 2014. And the way I financed that deal was I used a hard money lender to finance 80% of the purchase and the rehab. And the remainder, I took a HELOC on my primary residence to fund. So, and I am in the Seattle market. It's an expensive market. Our deal, an average price point for our deals back in 2014 was 600 to 700K. So it was a pretty expensive deal.
So then after that first flip, did you pay back your HELOC that you took out on your original property?
So I would like to say that I made a massive profit on my first deal, and I was able to pay back my stock and all that good stuff. But that didn't happen. I actually lost $5,000. So the fact that I'm still here shows you that I was absolutely in love with investing, and otherwise I wouldn't continue to do it. So I lost money on my first deal, but luckily I was able to take an almost like what was going to be $100,000 loss and mitigate that by just hustling and finding cheaper labor and listing the property at the right time to only a $5,000 much more digestible, manageable loss. And so no, I didn't pay back that first HELOC. I used the HELOC to then do my second, third, fourth flips, and then eventually paid it back.
So that kind of became your line of credit, essentially.
Essentially became my line of credit, which then brings me, Kara, to my next question for you is, how did you back then find your deals when you weren't this popular Instagram star?
Well, back then I honestly would fall asleep looking on Zillow, and my mom was a real estate agent. So I'm just sending her all of these listings, so many listings. And even before I got my first property, we were just putting in offers. And to this day, I just put in offers. If the offer doesn't get accepted, that's okay. You're not falling in love with these properties. If the numbers make sense, put in an offer. If you don't get it, on to the next. This is a business. So I still get properties off of the MLS. I put in lowball offers to get the conversation started, and you never know what a buyer's situation or what a seller's situation is. So they might need to get out of that property fast. If you can come through, they could take your offer significantly lower than what they have it listed for. Fix and flip that I'm working on right now came to me from a wholesaler. They came to me direct. I have actually purchased 2 of their past wholesale deals, and I saw them recently at an auction. And I like to flip in the same zip code, so I can run my numbers fast. I'm very familiar with them. And I was at an auction at a house in that zip code that I like to flip in. And the wholesaler came up to me. He said, "You bought our last deal. My mom's actually selling her house. It's right down the street. Would you be interested in buying it when she's ready to sell it?" And I said, "Absolutely, give me a call." So he did, and luckily I was the only investor they came to. So we got it under contract, and now we're doing a full gut rehab on it right now. But there's so many ways to get deals, even when it is competitive. Wholesalers are a great way, but you have to know your numbers, and other investors too. There's plenty of investors who aren't taking on deals that you would be interested in taking on. So it's great to tell people what you're looking for.
That's amazing. So for Char, she asked, what market is Kara flipping in? Kara is in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area.
Yep. So I do most of my flips in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yep. Yeah, so I find my flips too very similarly. I have a huge network of wholesalers that bring me deals. I don't typically buy deals off of a large, email blast where everybody wants to buy the same deal, and then I end up paying a lot more money for the same deal. My wholesalers, I've been buying from for as long as I've been flipping homes. So they actually call me and they say, "Hey, I have this killer deal. Like, do you want to come get it?" And so I'm able to go and walk these properties and get some pretty awesome deals, even in a hot market. My deal pipeline is full because I take care of my wholesalers. They know I'm going to close when I say I will close. And, that just comes with experience. Now, if you're newer, what you're going to have to do is come to these networking events, meet people, talk to people, build a relationship with your fellow investors and fellow wholesalers. You never know where your next deal is coming from. It could be the MLS, but it also could be a friend who just doesn't have the bandwidth to take on another deal. I'll tell you how I bought my last deal. So I was on a virtual meetup just like this one. It was a local Seattle meetup. And what's amazing is there was 36 people on this meetup. And a wholesaler that I've bought many properties from before came on this meetup and said, hey, I have this incredible deal. It's a single family home. It's on a 3,000 square foot lot. You could, for now, just, buy it, refinance it, rent it. You don't have to do much renovations to it, and you're still going to make positive cash flow. And then in 3 to 5 years, you can sell the land to a builder, because land in that area is going for a pretty high penny. And so I'm sitting here thinking, and the house is only 700 square feet. And I'm thinking, okay, in our market, that would be like 350 to 400K to purchase. So I'm waiting for him to tell us what it's going to cost. And he says, oh, and the price is 200K. And I was like, what? And so if you know your market and if you know your pricing, you'll know how to spot a good deal. Like I said, there was 36 people on this Zoom call, and I was the only one that said, I'll buy it. I was like, send me this deal. I'll buy it from you today. And so he was, before we even got off the Zoom, he sent me a text with all the pictures. Within 6 hours of that, he sent me a purchase and sale agreement. We were under contract. We did a full sewer inspection and a home inspection, and the house was perfect. There was a large shed in the back, so we negotiated with the seller to give us a $5,000 reduction in price so we could get the shed down. So I bought this house for $195K in a really screaming hot Seattle market. We just also got it appraised, and it appraised for $360. And what's amazing is there was other people on this call that didn't make use of this opportunity. And so just be aware of your market, know where you're flipping, know where you're buying these deals, and know your numbers. Right. And that'll help.
That's true. Well, that's like the quote when it says, I'm not lucky. It's when preparation meets opportunity.
Meets opportunity. Yeah. Exactly.
That's a great
Kara, you have a very unique way of funding your deals, financing them. Can you tell us about how you were able to do this, and what is your strategy there?
So even to this day, I finance my deals very differently based on what else I have going on. So it kind of depends on the project. It depends on how much cash I have on hand. It depends on how many other projects I have going on. So I finance them a few different ways, but my favorite ways are, I love to partner with private money lenders. That's ideally, if I can do that all the time, that's what I prefer to do. So partnering with a private money lender, these are people that I know and trust. This is not a bank or a big institution like a big hard money lending company. So I can get the cash fast, and usually I'm paying a much lower rate and not always paying points, like 1% of the cash that I'm borrowing, I'm not paying that. And with private money lenders, I can negotiate my own terms. So if I can't pay them on a monthly basis, we can negotiate a term where I'm paying them a balloon payment, all of their monthly interest at the end after I sell the house. So I'm not out of pocket per month. So that's my favorite way to finance a deal. That way I'm using their cash, not necessarily my own cash. So I have that to do another deal if it comes by. I also have a commercial line of credit. So this is something that I get reapproved for every year. And the commercial line, how much I can pull from it depends on your credit score, your experience, and a few different factors, but that will kind of determine how much you have to pull from and then what that interest rate is. And usually it will go down the more experience that you have under your belt. So I get those commercial lines reapproved every year. And that's another way that I can pull quite a bit of large amounts of cash to do a purchase. The only thing with my commercial lines of credit, they will not fund the rehab. So sometimes I'll have to get a little more creative and possibly use my commercial line of credit to fund the acquisition, and then I'll use private money to fund the rehab. Most of the times I love to use cash for the rehab, so I'm not paying interest on the rehab cost. because that just will eat into my profit at the end of the day. But those are the main ways that I finance my deals.
So can you tell me, like, what does your commercial loan cost you? Like the
Yeah.
interest on the commercial loan?
I pay a point. So if I'm just for numbers, if I'm pulling that line of credit of $500,000, I'm paying 1 point on the full amount that I have to pull up front. And then I'll pay 7% interest, which is really low right now for an investor rate. And then once that house sells, that money is put back into the line, and then I have my full balance again. But I'm only paying interest on the amount pulled. So
got it. And then can you also tell us, like, if you were doing a private lender loan that is interest only, like what does that interest look like?
yeah, it depends on the private money lender. So every lender that I work with, every private money lender I work with has different terms. Usually I'm at 5 to 6%. I have one that I pay 4%.
That's
So
amazing.
completely passive. So this is something they have a full-time job. They don't have the time to do this themselves. So it's better for them to get a 4% return on their money than less than 1%, just having it sit in the bank.
Agreed. That's amazing.
Do you work with any private money lenders yourself?
Yeah, so I'm on the board of a hard money lending company, and I'm going to share their name, not because I want you to go to business with them, but because they are so amazing. It's called Certain Lending. Nee is actually part of Certain Lending. The reason I like them is that they just make my lending process so easy. Everything's done online. Alex, I see Alex Chin here. Alex is also with Certain Lending. What's cool is they just make it so easy. Once I have a deal, all I need to do is go on their website, put my deal in, and within a matter of hours, I have their term sheet. And so that just makes it very easy for me to know whether I want to buy this deal or not based on the interest rate I'm getting. So a lot of my deals are hard money lender finance. And the way they finance it is 80 to 90% of acquisition and 100% of rehab. So I'm still bringing in about 20% of the acquisition cost. And then I do also have private money lenders. One of my favorite ways to finance my deal is by partnering with my general contractor, because that really motivates him to do better business and better work. So what I do is he brings in the bridge payment, the down payment of the 20%, which in my area could be anywhere from 100 to 120K for acquisition. And so he puts in the 120K, then we partner on the deal. So he becomes my private lender. He still charges me whatever fees he charges for general contracting, which I'm not going to take a piece of that because that's his thing, that's his deal. And then when we sell the deal, he makes 15% of the profit and I keep 85%. And that's just worked really well for us as a partnership, because you guys, I'm not kidding, there's a difference between the homes that he's partnered with me on and not partnered with me on. Like he just, yeah, he just like throws in cedar shingling, like he's like, oh, I'm just going to drive all the whole house. It's going to cost me the same amount of money, which otherwise I'm like paying for every square footage, of drywall, paint, carpet, whatever it is. But if he's on the deal with me and he knows we can make a really good profit, then, he just gives in some freebies.
That's so great, because he has an incentive to really make this house beautiful, do the work correctly.
Right. And on our last deal, we made a 200K profit on the flip. And so that's a big payday for him. And we were able to do that because he gave it so much more attention and love. So just, get creative with the way you finance it. And you never know where that money is coming from, like who, your lender can be, but they're always out there. And like Kara said in the beginning, a lot of people have day jobs. They don't have the bandwidth to go be an active investor. So like if you can do that for them and they can trust you and give you their money to grow it, then that's a win-win.
Yeah, there's a lot of, when we talk about private money lenders, I hear a lot of times, well, why wouldn't that person just buy the house and do it themselves? Because they don't have the time, they don't have possibly the skills or even the know-how to make this happen. So they're having you work for them.
Yes, exactly. And I see a lot of chatter about private money versus hard money. And I see Alex and me have addressed it. So yeah, feel free to put in your questions and we'll take them as we get them.
And I do want to say something else about commercial lending. So I got started with W-2 income. However, if you don't have that, maybe you don't have W-2 income to support getting a loan on these properties. As soon as I quit my day job, that is the only way I was able to continue to flip. So I had to switch to commercial lending, because with a commercial lender, they don't require the W-2 income. So that's why you're paying a higher interest rate, because essentially you're more of a risk, but you can fund your deals faster. You're paying a higher interest rate, but at least you can get the deal. You get funding for the deal. And then that also builds up your credibility. So sometimes private money lenders will want to see that you know how to do this, and building you basically allows you to build your track record. So
right. So when you got your commercial line of credit, did you still have your W-2, or was that after your W-2?
No. So when I say I learned everything as I went, this is a great story. So I had done a few flips, and with every single flip, I saved that profit. So that's another thing. You don't want to blow your profit on a new car or a new whatever. You want to save that and turn it into your next investment property. So I'm saving all of this money, compounding my profits basically. So I quit my job. I have enough money to fund the down payment, to fund the rehab. So I go to my lender and I said, okay, I found a house. I'm ready to buy it. And he said, Kara, you can't buy this house. You quit your job. And I said, but I have the money to do my down payment and the rehab. He said, it doesn't matter. You don't have your W-2 income. So huge learning curve. And that's how I found out about commercial lending.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a hard way to learn it, but you can't help these things. You just got to learn as you go. I see a few people asking about their IRAs, and Lisa Rodriguez, like I see you in the audience. Lisa works at New View Trust that sets up people's IRAs so they can use it to invest. So Lisa, if you can follow up with these people and also leave your information in the chat box in case someone else wants to get in touch with you, that would be great.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I actually, I might reach out to you, because so I have a Roth IRA, and you can purchase houses through your Roth, but it has to be set up in a certain structure. So I would love to talk to you about that.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kara, I have another question for you. I know a lot can go wrong with flipping homes, but so far, what has been your favorite deal?
I've had a lot of favorite deals for different reasons. Of course, you have your favorite deal where it's your biggest profit. You have your favorite deal when my first edition was a really fun favorite deal. But I honestly think my favorite deal looking back was the deal that was the hardest, because it was the first deal that I had right after quitting my job. Pretty much everything that you can imagine went wrong. We got shut down by the city, paying the highest interest that I've ever paid. And now we can't work for 4 months on the job site, going through permits. It was really difficult. And now I'm I just dove into this. And so you have to just figure it out and keep going. And I remember thinking to myself, if I make $1 profit on this house, I'll be happy, just have this done. And it actually ended up being a fantastic profit. But more than the profit, I just walked away with so much knowledge of every aspect of that deal. And so looking back, that I have to say that was my favorite deal. It was so hard, but you're basically paying for your education at that point.
So true. I can completely, I feel it. I see that too.
What was your favorite deal?
So my favorite deal was one, like you said, was the hardest deal, but also it's the deal that I made the most amount of profit on. It was a lot subdivision. I talk about this in my Bigger Pockets podcast. But it was a house that I bought to flip back in 2017. I bought the house for 575K, and I basically started to flip the house. But I was driving around the neighborhood one time and I saw that my neighbor's lot was being subdivided, and so I decided to do the same on my lot. The city said that it would only take like a year to subdivide the lot. It took me 4 years. It took me 3 years to get my final short plat, and then it took me a whole year for all the horizontal construction. So all the water, sewer, electricity, gas construction was just, time consuming and took forever. Like when you're waiting for the utility companies to come do anything and they say, yeah, it'll take us 3 weeks. I would account for 3 months because that's kind of what I went through. But the amazing thing is I was able to do it. After a good 4 years, I was able to successfully do it. I just sold the house for $1 million. I sold one of the lots for 475, and I'm under contract to sell the third lot for 460, making $1 million profit on this deal. So it's not that, yeah, it was time consuming, but it was worth it. So that's what I love about real estate investing, is that you get into it thinking one thing, but then there's so many different opportunities you can make use of. And as long as you have an open mindset and you're willing to learn and grow every day, then, you can do things that not everybody else wants to do. So it's just my favorite deal. Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you became this social media star.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a social media star, but
I would say that you are way too humble. If you guys don't know her, you need to go on Instagram and look at Beckman House. It is one of the most beautiful Instagram pages I follow. And Cara did all that on her own. So tell us how you did it.
Thank you. It really started for me as a way to just have a place to showcase, really for myself, to have these before and after pictures. This was well before I started taking on any client remodels. It was just a place for me to have my memories, really, of these projects when I started Beckman House. And through social media, after many years, really, we just started to get more followers, and bigger accounts would repost some of my after pictures. And that's when I would see growth on Instagram. But Instagram has been such a great tool for me, as far as all of my clients come from Instagram. So that's a really huge part of it. And then I'm able to showcase their work and the work that we've done for their projects. And through that, I've met a number of new investors. I've had investors that I've met on Instagram finance some of my deals. And I have an investor right now where they're going to finance 100% of the deal. I'll bring in my crew, do all of the work, and then we'll do a profit split on that. So social media is so great for that reason alone. You can just really build your business. I think the key is just being consistent in posting pictures, and I try to show in my stories a lot of like our job site walkthroughs and kind of the back end as well of the business. So I think people like to see that. So I try to keep them involved from start to finish on these projects. But it's been a journey for sure.
No, I think, you're not giving yourself enough credit, but Cara has the most beautiful aesthetic of anybody I know. So she puts together like tile and, fixture samples. And I'm just like, whoa, like I'm blown away. And she does a really good job of even showcasing this so that anybody, like if you're remodeling a kitchen or a bath in your own primary residence, you could actually go on her Instagram and then look at where all her product is sourced from and how she puts them together, which I think you add so much value to people, and that's why people follow you. So I know you've done over 20 remodels yourself, but you've done more like 30 or 40 client remodels that all came from Instagram.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, all of them. And now you're also doing a 3-story remodel for clients that you haven't even met, right?
Well, the 3-store remodel is my own, so that's a flip that I'm in the middle of. But yes, I have 2 client projects. One client, she is from out of state, never met her at all. She hasn't even seen this house. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together until I'm walking the house with her. I knew she was out of town. I didn't know she had never seen this house. So I'm walking the house. We already determined we're doing a full gut remodel. And I asked her about the texture of the interior walls. It was really rough. I know on the East Coast, you have these beautiful, smooth, textured walls. We don't have that luxury here, and it's kind of expensive for us to have that smooth finish, but it makes such a big difference. And so I was asking her, do you want me to smooth out these walls? And she said, well, we've never actually seen them. Can you send a close-up? And I said, have you never seen this house? She said, no, we just bought it on Zillow. So that was funny. I'm finally going to meet her, hopefully in a few weeks. She's coming out here, but we are tearing off her roof. It's a full gut remodel, raising her roof line significantly. So we're waiting on permits for that. But that all came from Instagram. And then a few months prior, I had a client from Pennsylvania, same thing. She found me on Instagram, and I went to a beautiful house that she had, and we did 2 bathroom remodels, a fireplace remodel, and then I finally met her towards the end. So
That's crazy.
it is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy. I know she was nervous about it. But again, when you're showcasing your work, it's
Right.
creating clients can trust you because they see this is the work that you're turning out on a consistent basis. So just another great reason to constantly update your work and show it on social media platforms if that's a business that you're in.
Yeah, social media works. It really does work. So let me ask you about some of the struggles that you've had over the last 4 or 5 years in your business.
Honestly, I would say the biggest struggle wasn't even the learning curve, because that's what was really exciting to me. I love diving in and figuring things out, but I would say it was the growing pains. I can take a lot on by myself, and that's what I've done for many years, but it got to a point, especially when the client business was becoming a huge part of Beckman House, trying to balance that and keeping all of the balls in the air. So that was a huge struggle, and finally brought on someone full-time. So that has been an amazing help, and her focus really is the client relation aspect of it and the branding, and just to have someone to bounce ideas off of has been amazing. So kind of getting out of that fear of hiring someone and being responsible for someone, I had to get past that. And it's just like with anything else, once you take that leap, you realize it's okay, and things start going a lot more smooth. So that was a big struggle, in having that mindset shift.
Yeah, but you pulled through it.
Yeah.
And that's what's amazing, is you just find many solutions to all the problems, and suddenly what you end up doing is enjoying your work, enjoying your everyday work, and then you want to do more of that. I did see a question here from someone, I think it was Shiny, that said, this is a question for me, how did I account for the almost 4 years? So he or she's talking about the deal that I just spoke about and how I financed it. What was cool is that there was a house on the lot that I bought already, and I remodeled that house and refinanced it with a conventional loan, and I put renters in there. So the rent covered my mortgage. So I didn't have a mortgage for the 4 years that I owned that house. Then the horizontal construction and the construction of the subdivision itself cost me about $500K. And I got a loan from certain lending for that. And they were really nice to see the potential of what this property could all sell for. And so I basically set up a land loan with them. And that's how I financed it. But that's a great question, because it's important to know how I was able to do that.
So more
All right.
land loan,
Sorry, Karak?
Can you go more into defining what a land loan is?
Yeah, so there's some lenders, not all. So you have to really go out in the market and see who does this, but they can finance your subdivision costs based on the future potential of what these lots would appraise for. So, and I don't know a lot of people that do that. Certain lending did do it for me because of my track record and my relationship with them. So it's always based on your relationship with your bank. So I highly recommend going and, forming these relationships. Like in Kara's case, she was able to make a relationship with the bank to get that commercial loan. Same with me is I was able to make a relationship with certain lending to get that really unique loan for this property. So if you can go out and make good friendships with your local banks and lenders and hard money lenders, then more often than not, they're willing to fund your unique purchase. So Kara, I have another question for you. What could help you in your business right now? Like, I know you're looking to grow. What would help you with that?
Well, so what we're looking at right now, so this is a problem that we had turning it into a solution and kind of what's next. So we're talking about partnering with a contractor that we have a great relationship already built with and turning it into a design build firm. So a lot of times we're doing these beautiful client remodels, but we're just doing the design. And so we're losing a lot since we're not bringing in the construction aspect as well. So as far as what's next for us, still focusing on investment properties, but then also having the design build firm for the client side of the business.
That's awesome. Yeah, if anybody in the audience has any insight on that, feel free to reach out to Kara and let her know.
What's next for you in your business?
Ooh, lots of exciting things going on. So I know a lot of you in the chat have said that you're looking for burrs in different parts of the country. So that's been my main focus since COVID happened. Was I didn't know where my market was going. So I just focused on building my burr portfolio, my rental portfolio. So I was able to buy 3 triplex fourplexes at a very distressed state at a good price because they were so distressed. And I'm using my fix and flip knowledge, construction knowledge to fix these up. So I'm able to really raise equity and refinance these properties, and make, rental income to basically take care of my mortgage and then cash flow on these properties. So my focus has been, going and building out my multifamily portfolio. But going forward, I'm also looking at, developing some assisted living homes. So I'm really excited about that, is building homes for residential assisted living. So these are residents aged 65, 70 plus. And we're building beautiful homes for them to stay, and we're going to provide care. And we've identified a few markets to do this. So very exciting stuff coming down the pipeline.
Which is why you were in Arizona.
Which is why I was in Arizona looking for lots and homes for the residential assisted building. Kara, tell me about you. What's next for you?
Well, again, working on our design build firm for our client projects, and then starting my first ground up development, which will be exciting. I know this can take a long time, so probably won't even have that completed this year, but we're in the preliminary process with the city right now. So right before COVID, I bought some land that had a duplex on there. Tenants were in place. So the reason I bought the land is we had a little duplex on a huge piece of land. So that's why kind of those red marks went off when I saw it, because you see opportunity, which kind of goes back to just look for opportunity everywhere. I was mostly in single family, but when I saw this, I knew that there had to be opportunity there. So got it under contract right before COVID. The initial plan was to get the tenants out and then start building up, maximizing the lot and building it up right away. Decided to keep the tenants in place just to see what was going to happen with the market. And then it just kind of did a boomerang and now it's full swing. So going back to the city and starting all of our plans. So we have all of that coming, and that will be really exciting. And then while that's happening, still adding to my rental portfolio and doing fix and flips. So for
Yeah, I mean, do you still do fix and flips because they're so fun?
You know, I've been keeping more of my properties. So I'll fix them up and then I don't want to sell them. So I'm kind of in this shift, but I will say the fix and flip that I'm doing right now, there's pros and cons to both. We are in such a hot market. So for the one that I'm doing right now, I will keep it as a fix and flip because that will give me a good lump sum of cash to possibly purchase another rental property. So it is nice to kind of have that balance, which is another reason I love real estate investing. You're not stuck to one thing. So
Right.
you can start out in fix and flips, smaller single family homes, which is a great way to start, and work your way into multifamily, maybe commercial, and then go back to smaller fix and flips if you want. You know, there's no right or wrong reason, but kind
Yeah.
of of different things.
I love that. So when I started flipping homes, I had never heard of the burst strategy. I didn't know about like owning a rental portfolio, because I was like, where's the money for my next deal coming from? Right. So I was just flipping homes for the first 3-4 years of my career. Then I met one of my mentors who said, you must hold everything you buy. And that's kind of like, then I was like, okay, I'm going to look at these deals in a different mindset. I'm going to start looking, for deals that make sense to hold. And I started amassing a rental portfolio. And in the Seattle market, like, if you know it, each of our doors costs $350 to $400K. And so it's harder to come by good rental properties and it's harder to finance them. So but I started doing that, and now every year I try and hold, I don't know, 5 to 10 doors, and that's really helping boost my passive income. So there's no roadmap to real estate investing, which, like Jody and Saul say, that's why real estate investing is great. You can do it any way you want. You can start with a rental portfolio. You can start with a fix and flip. You can start with multifamily syndications. Really, everything is available to you. It's just which way you want to go. How do you want your roadmap to look like?
Right. When I first started, one of the first things I Googled was if successful real estate investors could do this over again, what would they change? And most all of them said they wish that they kept more properties in the very beginning. So I always had that in the back of my mind. But for me, I had to do a number of fix and flips to get enough cash before I could buy and hold these properties. So
that's right.
Yeah, there's no roadmap and it's different for everyone, but it does help to kind of start with some good cash up front.
Yep. Yeah. Everybody's situation is different. So, mold it to what your situation looks like. So we're ready to take on some questions from the audience. Go ahead and type it in the chat box and we'll start reading them and start going through them.
So someone actually just said, I don't qualify for a mortgage because I don't have 2 years of flipping. So this would go back to, this is where your commercial lenders come in because they don't need your W-2s to qualify you for a loan. So hopefully that helps.
Any more advice on finding deals off market? Yes, because I buy all my deals off market. And the reason I'm able to do that is I'm able to identify some key wholesalers in my city. And when you know the wholesalers in your city that are bringing good deals to the people around you, then it becomes easy to go and have a steady deal flow pipeline. So what I've done is identified like 4 or 5 wholesalers. So when I am looking for a deal, I don't blast that on social media or my Facebook page. I instead go to my wholesalers and say, hey guys, I'm looking for a deal. And literally the next deal that comes their way, they give me a call and say, I have a deal. And it's not like I buy every deal that the wholesalers bring me. Like my most trusted wholesaler bought me 14 deals before I finally bought one from him over the last 6 months. Because of COVID and everything that happened, my buying criteria changed and the way I looked at deals changed. And so I'm a lot more risk averse now than I was about a year ago. And so he would bring me a deal and I'm like, nope, that's next to a cemetery. I don't want it. Nope, that's on a double yellow line. I don't want it. Like I've become more picky about it, which is why I'm able to turn much higher profits from 1 or 2 deals rather than doing 8 deals like I did before, not making any profit.
That's a good point.
Kara, there's a question here from, who's this? Mark. He says, how do you determine your rehab cost?
Oh, that's a good question. So this kind of goes back to knowing your market. So this is going to change for every investor based on the selections that they use. This will be different based on your market as well. From doing this so long, I know price per square foot, what I'm going to put into each house. So when I'm running my numbers, I can just plug that number right in. For someone who's just getting started and has never done a rehab, I think the best way to determine this, I would do a spreadsheet and I would add every single item that you think you're going to purchase on that spreadsheet. Your ceiling fans, every single thing, toilet, vanities, appliances, flooring, every single thing that you can think of, put it on a spreadsheet, see where that's getting you. And then I would get a few different costs from a contractor just to see what they're charging for painting, for flooring, everything that goes into a rehab. And then based on a certain square footage of the home, and that's how you could start to get a good idea of what your price per square foot would be. But without doing one, it's helpful to have done some, because I have things to base that off of. But if you're starting from scratch, when I first started on my first deal, I didn't know how to project what those costs would be. So I just purchased everything as cost effective as I could, and always looking for deals. And then for my second deal, I had a general idea of what I could base that second deal off of for my renovation. And now it's gotten really tight since we've done a lot, but that would be my best suggestion if you're just getting started.
So I have a different approach too, which with Kara's approach, that's how I do it now. But when I first started, I did not know construction. And I'm the first to admit it. I did not know construction. So what I did was I got a lot of contractors to come and bid on my house. Now, for them to bid your house is free, because ultimately they just want your business. So they'll come give you an estimate for free. Now, what happens though is each time you walk your contractor through the house and they come up with a different bid, you're kind of understanding, okay, this contractor charges 8,000 for a roof. This contractor charges 12. This contractor is only charging me 10. And you do the average of them all and you see, okay, the roof should really cost only 10 grand. So why is this guy coming in lower? Why is this guy coming in higher? But if you just like break down every item, drywall, paint, flooring, kitchen cabinets, to little buckets and say, okay, what did each contractor come in at? Then you average them out. And then you have your rehab budget or your rehab scope. Do that on like 2 or 3 homes and you will see you get really good at analyzing rehab. So just one way to do it. Someone wants to know, Floor wants to know about the GC partnership structure that I have. So I'm going to go over that really quick. So say I bought a house for $575 and my rehab on that is about 75 grand. The lender, my lender, say Certain Lending, will lend up to 85 to 90% of the purchase and 100% of my rehab. So my rehab of 75 grand is covered. Now, taking that 575K and 15% of that, which is whatever the number is, 100, 125K, that's what my contractor funds. So he funds that bridge financing of the down payment that I need to buy the deal. Now, don't get me wrong, you still need to have your own cash because I still do finance or not finance, but I still do fund my holding costs every month, which is my mortgage cost, my insurance, my property taxes, my utilities, for as long as the house that I'm flipping is under my company name, right? So I'm still funding that every month. Then when I go to sell the home, whatever that profit is, like say the profit is 100 grand, 150 grand, 200 grand, we go into the deal with the contractor saying, this is what your profit percentage is going to be. If you put in 15% of the down, your profit on the deal is 15% of the profit. Say we made a loss, you would lose 15% of your money that you put into the deal. Floor, I hope that helped kind of, yeah? Okay, awesome. All right, lots of other questions.
Leica, I would love to get your opinion on this. So
Sure.
question says, any suggestion to the Toronto market? I don't know if you know about the Toronto market, but they are saying it's a super hot, everything is at its peak, which is the same in Arizona. I'm sure it's the same in Seattle. So is it a good time to invest in any market if it's at its peak?
That's funny, Kara, because I was going to throw that question at you, but I'll take it. No problem.
For it too, but I want to know what you would do.
Yeah. So my market, my Seattle market, as much as I love it, is so hot that on my Instagram page today, I actually posted this one home that was listed for 1.2 and it sold for 1.5. 300K over asking. I made an offer on a house last week and there was 36 offers on this home. And I was an all cash buyer, close quick, no inspection, no contingencies, no title, no financing. I mean, everything you learn about investing and what not to do, I did. And I still didn't get this home. So yes, my market is super hot, but that's why you need to go and find these off-market deals and off-market properties. I know it's not easy, especially when you're first starting. When I first started, like I was constantly making offers and getting rejected. And that's going to happen to you, but just stay patient. Look on Craigslist for wholesalers. Call brokers that have distressed properties for sale and ask if they have other properties that are yet to come on the market. Say, okay, hey, I'm interested. I'm going to buy them off market if you can get it to me. And I'll pay a little bit extra, whatever it is, but it's going to still be cheaper than if you bought it on market. So the key is to go find whatever the market, if the market's at its peak, then when you sell your home, it's still going to sell at a peak. So you're still going to make a pretty killer profit. So whatever the market is at, you need to make sure that you're buying it under market value and you're adding enough equity so that when you go back to sell it, you're going to hit that high profit. Hope that helped answer your question, Kara.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Yeah.
That wasn't my question. I was asking you a question that someone put in our chat.
Yes, I saw that. Okay, so Kara, do you have a spreadsheet or template you can share for estimating rehab costs?
I don't. I basically make my own spreadsheets for every property. So, if I were to share what my costs were for my rehabs, it could be drastically different than yours because we might be shopping at different places for fixtures, and my contractor's pricing would more than likely be different than yours, especially based on the market. So unfortunately, I don't have a spreadsheet to share for estimating rehab costs.
Yeah, and you guys, if you do want to go take a look at it, like say on Bigger Pockets or something, you should find a pretty generic one. Mm-hmm. Kara, this is for you. How do you find a GC and what criteria do you look for that tells you that they're good or that you should keep looking?
So when I first started, same as you, Leica, I had so many general contractors give me quotes because when you're starting from scratch, you can get general contracting information from referrals, but their prices will all be different. And so at the end of the day, you kind of have to go with someone who has good pricing. You feel as though it would be a good fit for you, and you just have to try them out. And a lot of this is trial and error. I've had general contractors work with me for 5 projects, and then it didn't really work out at the end. And then I had to find a new one. For this project that I'm on now, I'm working with a brand new general contractor for my current flip, and I found him I was doing a client project, and as I'm walking this, it was a client consultation. And as I'm walking their project, I could tell that the GC knew what he was doing. He had, there were saw cuts on the concrete and they were really clean cuts. And there were just a few things that looked really good. And so I got his information. I interviewed him. I asked him how many crews he had, which is a really good question to ask, because if they have one small crew, I already know he has other jobs going on. You know, I can't have a contractor who has all of his crewmates on another project. So he had 3 crews. And so I went with him, and so far it's been really, really great, but a lot of it's trial and error too.
Right. So true. All right. So I have a question here from Joy. She says, do you get a contractor to walk the property with you to come up with rehab estimates before you make an offer on a property? Yes and no. If it's just a single family fix and flip, I mean, I got it. I've done 50 remodels, but I've walked 500 properties. So I get that. But yes, if it's a much larger building, like a multifamily, or if it's a complicated building where, you know, it's going to involve a lot of structural changes, or if it's an addition that I'm doing where I'm actually pouring foundation, attaching a building onto the existing structure, you know, changing, like blowing off the roof and putting in a new roof, or if it's like a fire burn house, I've done them all. And so, yes, I do have my contractors walk the property before I buy them. Now, also, this is a super hot market. So sometimes if I'm waiting for a contractor to come walk it and he's not available, then I might just lose the deal. So, I mean, I think really it's just a matter of, you know, knowing what deal that is, how much time you have, you know. Okay, so Rick has an interesting question. Rick, if you want to like unmute yourself and ask this question, it's an important question. I feel like everybody needs to hear it. Okay, we're not hearing from Rick. So here we go. I've done exactly what Kara said 3 times now and lost everything. I've had to figure out how to start over 3 times. It seems the really good, trustworthy contractors are super busy and booked way out and probably unaffordable for a fix and flip property. Kara, how do you deal with something like that?
Yeah, that's super, super sad to hear. You know,
Tomorrow go to school and Saturday we have nothing.
As far as losing everything, I wonder if the rehab was just too expensive and if the numbers didn't make sense. You know, if you're putting too much in the rehab and then your after renovation value is lower than you expected it to be, or you're just not making enough profit in between. I don't know if that was so much the contractor or miscommunication on pricing, or, you know, we always have to build in contingencies. So if it's a full rehab, that's at least 10 to 15% of what the contractor told me it would be. I have to have enough saved and enough in that profit that it makes sense. Again, this goes back to knowing your market. Do the numbers make sense? I pass on a lot of deals because the profit margin is too tight. And if we're going over in construction, it's not going to make sense at the end of the deal. So I'll pass on it. But I will say, you know, you want to make sure that your contractors are licensed, bonded, insured. If you're starting out, you can walk projects with your contractors. You can say, I'd love to take a look at a project that you're currently working on. Look how many people are working on that job. Are there people working on that job? You know, if you're walking the project on a Tuesday at 10 a.m., if no workers are there, that might be a red flag. So there's a few additional things that you can do when you're interviewing contractors. You can ask them for a list of previous clients and call those clients. Did this contractor complete the work on time? Were you happy with the work? Did the contractor come back if something was wrong with the plumbing or electric, or, you know, if something came up afterwards? So you do hear a lot of horror stories about contractors, and unfortunately that is a rep that some of them have. So if this has happened to you 3 times, I would definitely, if you're interviewing contractors, definitely take those extra steps. in the interview process to make sure you are hiring someone who's reputable and that you're not going to lose money at the end of the day.
Yeah, and also try to do different kinds of deals. Like maybe you've done a certain kind of deal where it's a much larger remodel than you or your contractor could handle. But if you take on something a little bit more cosmetic, then maybe that's just one different way to go. Char is asking about a fix and flip calculator. I do have a fix and flip calculator that I have developed over the years, and I'm happy to share that with everybody that attended today. I'll just, send you, when I send a recording of the meetup, I can send you a link to my fix and flip calculator. Happy to do that. So Vaishali says condo properties in downtown core have dropped. Does it make sense to invest in the condo properties right now? Kara, are you seeing that in Scottsdale, Phoenix?
Yeah, I have a few condos for rentals, and they've been awesome. Especially, I mean, in the Phoenix market, I usually invest in single family homes, but we are seeing a huge influx in condos, luxury condos. The main thing with condos that I try to kind of steer away from is the HOAs, because with an HOA, especially a luxury condo, you have no control when they're going to raise those HOAs on you. And if you can't adjust your rental income to offset that, it's just eating into your profits. So pros and cons to the condo.
Yep. So we'll take a couple more questions and then we'll do the breakout rooms, because that's going to be so fun. And I really want you all to interact with each other and meet each other and ask lots of questions, because you never know what the person next to you, or in this case, in front of you, is doing that might help you. So let's take this one question from Abhi Jain. Have either of you had any luck structuring deals with your buyer agents, assuming that you're not the agent? And if so, what is the typical deal that benefits, or the benefits of doing so? Kara?
Well, my real estate agent is my mom.
Mom.
So we definitely have a deal worked out. So she will take a significantly less amount on the commission. So usually she'll take 1 to 1.5%. And the benefit to her doing that is she gets all of my listings. So even if I didn't have my mom as my real estate agent, if you're going to a real estate agent and they know that they're getting all of your deals, that's a huge win for them. So more than likely, they're happy to take a lower commission on those deals.
Yeah, and I can speak to this as well, because a lot of my own flips come with a list back, which means if I'm buying from a wholesaler, the wholesaler is also saying, hey, in addition to you giving me an assignment fee, I also want to list your property when it's fully rehabbed. And honestly, I'm okay doing that because it's a hot market. They're taking the trouble to bring me the deal directly. And so if I have to put another 3% in their pockets, I'm okay with that. And also that gives me the basically, it shows me that they're invested in the deal and it's not just some random deal that they're bringing to me. Because if they're going to put their name on it to sell the property once it's ready, then they need to know that ARV is going to stick. All the finishes are going to stick. It's a good deal in a good neighborhood. So that can actually be beneficial to you.
That's a great advice.
All right. I think we need to stop the questions and go into breakout rooms. We'll do one last one from Jackie. Okay. Jackie says, everybody talks about having enough equity and cash on the side. If something goes over budget or goes longer, what all is considered as cash? I don't like to have my money just sitting in a savings account and not generate profit. Kara?
Well, I'm trying to find that question, Leica. I was reading another one. So let me.
Yeah.
That.
I mean, I think while Kara's reading it, I think your stocks, if they're liquefiable, will count. But you can't have equity in another home and use that to finance your monthly holding costs or your rehab overages. That's just not going to work.
Sorry, Leica, I'm not seeing it. You could read it again if you want.
Sure. And Ryan says life insurance. Talk to Ryan about that. Ryan is another ninja, like 100% connect with him, talk to him. He's awesome. So basically, Jackie's talking about how what would count as cash in order to be able to use that to fund the rehab overages and interest payments if your project was going longer than anticipated.
So if you
If she doesn't have any liquid cash sitting in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is where you could bring in private money lenders at a lower interest rate. So those can help you. You could do a balloon payment. So if you don't have the cash to pay them a monthly interest, you can work out a balloon payment at the end once you sell the property. But that can usually give you a large amount of cash, true cash, to have on hand to continue your rehab.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave this with Kara. Any final thoughts before we jump in the breakout rooms? Kara?
Oh, no final thoughts. I think this was great. Thanks, Leica. Yeah.
Awesome.